Did you know that, a huge chunk of your day isn't really decided by conscious choice. It's run by ingrained habits. What if I told you your brain is basically like trying to put your actions on autopilot? It's this incredible efficiency machine, but well, it can be your best friend or honestly, your biggest frustration sometimes. Kind of fascinating, right? Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're not just scratching the surface. We are plunging right into the science of habits, why we do what we do. Our mission for this deep dive is to unpack the intricate science behind these really powerful, often invisible forces. We want to get a handle on how they form, why they stick around so stubbornly, and, most importantly, how you can gain more real agency over them. This isn't just basic stuff. We're going deep into the neural nuts and bolts, even some surprising psychological hurdles. Yeah, we'll be covering some really interesting ground. We'll kick off with a clear explanation of what a habit really is, beyond the everyday definition. Then we'll dive deep into the fascinating brain stuff behind habit formation. We'll introduce that cue routine reward loop, that's the main framework, but also peek into the specific brain areas, the neurochemicals involved, all that good stuff. And we'll definitely spend some time dissecting why habits, once they're set, are just so incredibly hard to break. Even the bad ones, right? We'll look at things like extinction bursts, sounds dramatic, and how our own sense of self, our identity plays a role. And of course, we'll use plenty of relatable real-life examples, good habits, bad habits, just to make the science really click. Honestly, understanding this is so crucial because when you grasp the deeper science, you unlock, more intentional control over your day-to-day life, your personal growth. It's about shifting from being like a passenger to being the architect, consciously designing even those automatic bits. I'm really excited to peel back these layers with you today.
It really is true. The influence habits have, it's just profound and often underestimated. We tend to think of them as small things, trivial actions we do without thinking, but they stretch way beyond that into really transformative parts of our lives, how we process information, long-term goals, even managing our emotions. Habits are humming away under the surface. So yeah, getting this deeper understanding, it's fundamentally a powerful tool for, self-mastery.
That's a great way to put it, self-mastery.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning, but let's be precise. Scientifically speaking, what is a habit? We use the word all the time, but what's actually going on up there in the brain?
Excellent question. Fundamentally, a habit is an automatic behavior. An action, or maybe a sequence of actions, done regularly, and this is key, often without needing conscious thought, or even a decision. Think of it less like your brain being lazy, and more like it's being super efficient, exceptionally efficient, actually. When you repeat a behavior in a certain context over and over, your brain starts to, streamline the whole process. It carves out this dedicated neural pathway. It mainly involves the basal ganglia. That's a structure deep in the brain linked to motor control, learning procedures, things like that. And this lets the action just fire off almost instantly, which frees up your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for planning, decision-making, the heavy lifting, for more complex stuff. So it's not just saving energy, it's really optimizing your mental resources.
Okay. Yeah. Optimizing, not just saving. That's a really important distinction. It feels more sophisticated. And this optimization idea, it leads us straight into the core of it, right? The cue routine reward loop. We hear that phrase a lot. How does this framework actually function? How is it the brain's blueprint for making things automatic, especially considering those deeper neural bits you mentioned?
It really is the blueprint. For almost every habit, good or bad, it's a neurological process in 3 stages. First, you've got the cue. This is the trigger. It can be something in your environment or internal, like a feeling. It's the signal telling your basal ganglia, okay, time for this specific routine. It could be a time of day, maybe a place, an emotion, even just finishing some other action. And what's really crucial here is that the basal ganglia starts predicting the reward just based on seeing that cue.
Right, so a cue could be as simple as my phone buzzing, or that feeling of hitting an afternoon slump. And that signals the brain, okay, run the program. It's like the on switch, but it already knows what's coming.
Exactly. It comes with that built-in expectation. Then, following that cue, that prediction, we jump into the routine. This is the behavior itself, the action, physical, mental, maybe even emotional. So if the cue is the phone notification, the routine might be picking it up, unlocking it, opening, say, Instagram. It's that ingrained pattern running.
Okay, cue, routine.
Oh.
And then comes the reward. That closes the loop. It reinforces the whole thing, makes us want to do it again. But how does that work on a deeper level? It's not just feeling good, is it?
Well, the reward is the positive outcome, the good feeling you get from doing the routine. But more specifically, scientifically, it's about the release of dopamine. And dopamine, it's not just about pleasure, it's huge for motivation, for learning, especially when it comes to predicting rewards and seeking them out. So when you get that reward, maybe it's the novelty hit from scrolling or the satisfaction of ticking something off a list, or even just temporary relief from feeling anxious. Your brain logs it. This was good. This dopamine signal strengthens the connection, the neural link, between the cue and the routine. It essentially tells your brain, hey, that worked out. Remember to do that again next time you get that cue. It's this craving, this prediction driven by dopamine, that makes the loop so sticky and self-reinforcing. It's what makes us not just do the habit, but actually want to do it.
Wow, okay. The dopamine part, the prediction and seeking, not just the pleasure itself, that's huge. It explains why sometimes the urge, the craving, feels stronger than the actual enjoyment of the habit. So this whole system cue, routine, reward, they're constantly working together, reinforcing each other until the behavior is just automatic, deeply grooved into our neural pathways. And no wonder it's so hard to break habits once they're established. It really feels like you're fighting your own brains, like highly optimized, deeply embedded system. But beyond just that efficiency, what else makes habits so tenacious? Why are they so stubbornly resistant to change?
That's a really important question. And yeah, this is where a deeper dive is needed. It's not just efficiency. Once a habit is formed, those neural pathways, especially in the basal ganglia, they become incredibly strong, robust. Think of it like a canyon carved by a river over years and years. Water is always going to follow the easiest path, right? The path of least resistance. So breaking a habit isn't just about deciding to stop. It's about actively fighting against this ingrained, super efficient neural program, and you're trying to forge a completely new path, one that's barely there. That takes huge conscious effort. From the prefrontal cortex, it takes willpower, sustained attention, things our brain naturally resists because it prefers the easy habitual route. And there's more. When we try to disrupt a habit, a really established one, we often want in something psychologists call an extinction burst. Let's say you always grab your phone when you feel bored. If you try to stop, your brain, which is anticipating that dopamine hit, often amps up the craving. The urge to do the routine gets stronger right before it might finally start to fade. It's like, imagine a kid throwing a bigger tantrum when you first say no to candy. It's a protest. A protest against messing with that efficient reward-predicting pathway. Your brain is basically screaming, hey, this used to work, try harder.
An extinction burst. Oh man, that makes so much sense. I've totally felt that. It really is like the habit makes this one last desperate push to stay alive. It's so frustrating when you're trying to change. And I bet our identity gets tangled up in this too, right? Like when we say things like, oh, I'm just not a morning person, or I always procrastinate, we're kind of cementing the habit into who we think we are.
Absolutely. The identity piece is massive. Habits aren't just things we do, they get woven into how we see ourselves. If you identify as, say, someone who isn't good with money or someone who always checks email first thing, those habits become part of your story, your self-narrative. That makes them incredibly hard to change because you're not just fighting a behavior anymore, you're fighting a belief about who you fundamentally are. And this is why small wins, small consistent actions that align with the desired identity can be so powerful for building new habits. It's about proving to yourself, action by action, yes, I am this person.
Okay, that adds a whole other dimension. It's not just the brain wiring, it's also the psychological story we tell ourselves about that wiring. Let's make this really concrete for everyone listening. Can you give us some real-life examples, maybe a good one and a not-so-good one, and show how this deeper understanding the loop, identity, those extinction bursts plays out?
Sure, definitely. Let's take a beneficial one. Morning exercise. The cue might be your alarm clock going off at 6 a.m. Simple. The routine is maybe immediately putting on your workout gear, heading out the door or to your mat. The reward. Well, it's not just the endorphin rush, it's that feeling of accomplishment, maybe having more energy later, and crucially, strengthening your identity as a healthy person or someone who is disciplined. If you miss a day, that identity piece might actually trigger a little discomfort, which then motivates you to get back on track tomorrow. And the dopamine, it starts kicking in even before the workout, as your brain anticipates those positive results.
Yeah, I get that the feeling after is great, but it's the anticipation, knowing you're acting like the person you want to be. That's often what actually gets you out of bed, right?
Yes.
Especially on a cold morning. Okay, what about a detrimental habit? How do these deeper concepts fit there?
Okay, a classic detrimental one is mindlessly checking social media. The cue could be subtle, a moment of boredom, maybe stress, or just seeing that notification icon. The routine is obvious. Pick up phone, unlock, scroll through various apps. The reward here is often just temporary distraction. A little hit of novelty, you see something new, something interesting. It's that unpredictable, variable reinforcement that keeps the dopamine system hooked, making the habit incredibly compelling. What's really interesting is that the brain doesn't necessarily judge habits as good or bad when it's forming them. It's just optimizing. It sees a pattern, cue, routine, reward that works consistently or even variably, and it strengthens it. And when you try to stop that habit, that extinction burst could feel like an overwhelming urge to check your phone, maybe a feeling of missing out, FOMO, or just this vague restlessness that pushes you back to the old easy pattern. Plus, if you see yourself as someone who's always connected or always online, breaking that habit means challenging that piece of your identity.
That's such a good example. It really shows how those rewards could be subtle, almost sneaky, and how powerful that unpredictable reinforcement is for locking in habits we don't even really want. We often don't even realize we're in the loop or that we're fighting an extinction burst until, boom, we've already done the routine and gotten mini reward, or failed to stop ourselves. It really highlights why just saying use more willpower often isn't enough.
Precisely. And just knowing this, having that awareness, that's genuinely the first step toward getting some control back. Knowing the parts of the loop, knowing about the deeper brain stuff and the psychology, it gives us leverage, real leverage. Instead of just trying to, force ourselves to stop or start something, we can be more strategic. We can tweak the cue, maybe remove it. We can substitute a different routine, maybe make the old one harder to do. Or we can focus on making the reward for a new routine much more satisfying, more immediate, and importantly, linking it to that identity we want to build. If you connect this to the bigger picture, it means we're not just passive victims of our habits. We can actually be active architects. We understand the wiring, so we can make conscious adjustments.
It really is a game changer when you start looking at your own day through this lens. Suddenly those automatic things you do aren't just random or mysterious anymore. They have a structure, a logic, even specific brain circuits we can learn to influence. Yeah, this understanding really empowers us. It helps us move beyond just wanting to change and into actually doing something effective.
So this really brings us to the core insight, doesn't it? Habits are these automatic behaviors driven by specific neural pathways, think basal ganglia, think dopamine predicting rewards. That cue routine reward loop is absolutely the brain's blueprint for building and keeping these habits going. And why they're so hard to break? Well, it stems not just from those deep, efficient neural grooves, but also from things like those extinction bursts we talked about and how tied habits get to our sense of self, our identity. But crucially, understanding this whole mechanism, the neurology, the psychology, it isn't just interesting trivia. It's the essential first step, the foundation for intentionally shaping your own behavior and really reclaiming your agency.
Right. So what does this all mean for you listening right now that we've unpacked this science? We've talked basal ganglia, dopamine, extinction burst, identity. It's one thing to get the theory, but applying it is where it counts. So I want to leave you with a few reflection questions to sort of chew on, to bring these ideas right into your own life. First, think about your daily rhythm. Can you pinpoint one specific routine, something you often do almost unconsciously? What do you think is its core cue? And what's the real reward it delivers? And, thinking a bit deeper now, what role might an extinction burst play if you try to stop it? Second question, if you decided to intentionally build a new positive habit, how could you really carefully design its cue routine reward structure? How could you make sure the reward feels genuinely motivating? And how would you link it to your desired identity to make it really truly stick? And finally, third, for a habit you want to change or maybe stop altogether, which part of its loop, the cue, the routine, or the reward feels like the biggest hurdle for you, especially when you factor in potential extinction bursts or identity conflicts?
Figuring that out might just be your key strategic advantage.
You see, armed with this knowledge, you really do possess a powerful kind of nuanced tool. It's for intentional living, for personal growth. It moves beyond just relying on sheer willpower, which often fails us. It's about strategically understanding your own brain's operating system. This deeper grasp of the why behind what we automatically do, it gives you a new, profound level of agency. It lets you shift from just reacting to things towards consciously creating the life you actually want, one that aligns with who you aspire to be.
That really is a powerful thought to end on. If our brains are constantly, optimizing for efficiency by automating tasks sometimes in ways that don't serve us, how can we step up? How do we move beyond being passive participants and actually become active architects of our own automated behaviors? How do we ensure they consistently line up with our deepest aspirations, with a person we genuinely want to become? It's a challenge, for sure, but it's one worth embracing. And thankfully, the science of habits gives us a much better toolkit to tackle it head on.